Mark Dowdle. 2 words. And Alex Proctor. That's it.
That's it. That's us. That's us, guys.
That's us. Always has been. Always will be. But we might have a few more viewers than just Ward Engel and Michelle Julie and Lucy Coy.
Lucy Dowdle.
Oh. Too soon. Lucy Dowdle, true. Sure.
Well,
That's
go for it.
Funny because it's been almost 2 years now since Natalie and I got married, and I just changed her contact in my phone to Natalie Proctor.
Lucy's is still Coy in my phone.
Yeah.
It's almost like, because that's what I've been so trained on. When I see her name come up as Lucy Dowdle, it's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
I'm gonna set the stage here because we probably will have a lot of new listeners tuning in here. So real quick, Ultra Ascent, this podcast that Alex and I started together, is meant to showcase the journey that we're both on to become professional runners. Alex is, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm more in the ultra trail racing sphere in terms of races like UTMB. I did that last year. 50-mile races, 100K races, 50K races, more mountainous in nature. But my goal is to be competitive at those events and represent brands in those events and compete at the highest level in the world at those events. So I'm 26 right now. I started running when I was 22, and Dowdle and I have done a few events together because we both have a connection to Minnesota. We both went to the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. He played lacrosse and football. I played baseball. So we're both ball sport athletes originally, got into running sometime after college, or during college too, kind of. But we also have a connection with our strength coach, Austin Yoakum, who helped to kind of build us up as well. But our goals are both to become professionals in this world of ultra running in some way or another. But we both kind of realized we're doing the same thing, so we wanted to talk about how we're getting there and the steps along the way and what's been going on. So we've been recording this podcast now for, I think it's been a little over a year and a half, semi-regular. Yeah. We were on a weekly schedule, but we're both on crazy schedules.
Busy.
I'm sure if you guys
got married in the process.
Yeah, I'm sure if you've seen Dowdle's Instagrams lately, you can see one of the reasons why dude's in a different outfit every day of the week. So I saw the comment when someone said you look like Barbie with all the different
oh my
outfits
gosh
and stuff.
Yeah. And I would say probably and correct me if I'm wrong if this is a mischaracterization, but you're probably more in the traditional trail running sector of all of the, what you would typically think of how trail running and ultra running has been for the last, couple decades as professionalism. Exactly. And I'm much more in the kind of new age ultra running of the backyard ultra specialization, or trying to put together some unique challenges off the side that maybe aren't, they're not traditional races, but they are epic challenges that push my limits in different ways. Yeah. And one of the things that Alex and I did together a few years back that I really want to bring back this July is we did a 24-hour backyard simulation back in January of 2022. Maybe it was 2023, but I couldn't break the 24-hour mark for the Backyard Ultra. And so one way I wanted to just prove to myself that I could do it was saying, all right, we're going to do this for 24 hours. Alex joined, Kellen from Embrace North joined. He's one of our good buddies. And we invited people to come out to participate and set their new distance PR. I think we had 25 people set their new distance PR. We had no loop ever done alone. People were showing up 2 a.m., 3 a.m. It was incredible. We had a baby showing up at Eric Kirsten, Kellen's brother, showed up with his kid in a stroller at baby 3 PR. In the morning. It was so sick. So definitely want to bring that back to this because, part of my personal goal is to do epic challenges, demonstrate that, but also create opportunities for other people to participate in that. And so it's just, this podcast is us just sharing the journey to go from, if you look back in the early episodes, no sponsors, just trying to figure it out, just trying to dude, how do we make this work? So you'll see a lot of that. And our goal is to try and put on display this journey of us both becoming professional athletes and just showing and sharing, the struggles and the successes and all the ways in which we've done that. So that is what we're doing here. Thanks for being here. And I guess we'll get into it today. We have a big topic that I don't want to cut you off here, but let me know. We got a big topic today. Big Alta, 8th place, Alex Proctor, just huge. A few weeks ago. My buddy Cody Sullivan ran that race too. He was trying to he was trying to catch you during the pre-race meetings, but he couldn't find you.
It was awesome. Yeah, out in Marin County, California. I'll keep it short because it's not all that important. But it was the first annual running of the Big Alta 100K. The past 2 years there had previously just been a 28K and 50K. It's hosted by Free Trail. So Dylan Bowman, if you guys are in the trail running space, you probably know him for his podcast and that trail running network. And then Daybreak Racing is the race organization. Put an awesome event on. Dylan invited me out, so I'm glad I was able to show up for the first inaugural, and it was the most beautiful course I've ever run. Started at a base, I think it was like a military base or something, right by the Golden Gate Bridge. Went under the Golden Gate Bridge to start on the north side, and kind of traversed along the coast to some of the most popular beaches in the area: Rodeo Beach, Muir Beach, and then Stinson Beach is where I saw Natalie for the second time, my wife. And at that point, I was kind of mixing it up with some of the leaders and actually someone that you might know, Dowdle. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's a Minneapolis resident, Rob Mulkey. He ended up getting second place. I came in with him at the Stinson Beach aid station, but he trains a lot at the bouldering project because there's not as much elevation gain or change in Minnesota, but he's a Minneapolis guy, so he was there running with him. It was cool to share that camaraderie, but ended up just sticking around in 8th place for most of the race there. At the first aid station, I was in 3rd, but I had a little reset with Natalie, got all my stuff, and I would highly recommend that race to any trail runners out there as a first 100K, or if you're a 100K veteran, to try it. There's a lot of vert, about 12 to 13K over about 62 miles, so it is a lot of up and down, but the trails are all very runnable.
Course looked gorgeous too, just coming in on that beach.
Absolutely beautiful. We had a year where it was a little bit hotter than usual. It was about 80, 85 degrees at a certain point. In most cases that time of year, in late March in Marin County, California, it's about 50 to 60. So most years you can expect it to be a little bit cooler for you. And it's a good one to open up your season with. That's what I chose to do this year. And I would for sure come back. I'm already thinking of possibly coming back next year. I could see it very well being both a Western States qualifier, which just means that if you finish it, then you are eligible to be entered into the lottery for Western States.
Sure.
Since it was their first year, they didn't have that eligibility for that. And then 2, for it to possibly at some point be a Western States golden ticket race, given the stats of it, given the organization of it. I think the one thing that might hold them back from that classification is that it's, I think, currently sponsored by Solomon, and I think all golden ticket races currently are sponsored by Hoka in some way or another. So they kind of have control over that, which is kind of a bummer. So I was running with guys like Kellen Bloomberg, Zach Howard, Darren Thomas, Avery Collins, some of these guys that are kind of more maybe niche in the trail running sphere, but very, very good athletes. This Kellen Bloomberg guy had won the Kodiak 100K last year and then has quickly made a name for himself, winning a few other big races as well. Zach Hauer is the owner of Open Field. He's doing Cocodona this year, wants the podium, and Darren Thomas has been sponsored by Solomon in the past. Avery Collins is sponsored by Speedland. Devil wore Avery Collins' shoes for Arrowhead 135 this year solely. And then Alex King finished right in front of me a few minutes. He's the sponsor, or he's the owner of Terranota, the apparel brand that is trying to be more affordable for trail runners. Like their t-shirts and their shorts are like $20, and they're technical fabric and good stuff. So I'll check them out. And then Nicholas Lightbody finished right behind me. He's a Canadian that's finished really well at UTMB races. So pretty stacked field. No like huge names in the field, but names that are kind of coming up or trying to make a name for themselves or have been in the sport for a really long time and maybe have before and are still trying to stay relevant. So it was a good open season race, and one that, I mean, the organization was impeccable. Race course was laid out perfectly, and can't thank Natalie enough for continuing to come on these adventures and support me, even if it's for an 8th place. I was pretty happy with that to start the year in that competitive of a field with guys that were all 30 plus. I was the only 25-year-old, 26-year-old coming up soon that was in the top 10 by 5 years. So
nice.
All other guys in the top 10 had 5+ years on me, so that's kind of good to know that like there is time and it's not something to worry about really just yet. We're on the right path. But anyway, that's my recap of the Big Alta 100K. We got some bigger fish to fry. Dowdle won a race for, I don't know how many you've won in a row now, but this one is absolutely monumental, life-changing. It's going to be the what do they even call it? The Go One More Backyard Ultra, BPN.
BPN Go One More Backyard Ultra.
That's G1M, right. BPN, BU.
BYU.
So Dowdle and Lucy and Kellen and Caius, they drove down to an hour outside of Austin, Texas, and took on some big names in the Backyard Ultrasphere, one of which was Harvey Lewis, who was probably the biggest name on the start list, along with Kim and Kendall, winners of last year's race. And you can get into it.
Yeah, I knew going into this race that it was going to demand more out of me than any other race, just knowing that there was those 3 guys that you mentioned showing up to the race. I mean, more specifically, Harvey. I mean, I have total respect for Kim and Kendall, but they hadn't proven what they were capable of doing in the way that Harvey has solidified and established his name as one of the great ultra runners. And like you said on the phone on the way back, Mount Rushmore Backyard Ultra Runners, he's on it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I knew going into it, it was going to, in order to go a distance that felt like I was going to be leaving it all out on the course, it would demand more than I've ever done. And so I just went into the race with that mindset, like, I'm not trying to win this race. I'm not trying to focus on those guys, but just try and focus on seeing what I'm actually capable of. And I had this YouTube series that led up to the race called No Place to Hide, because it really was like an opportunity to where I had proven success in past races, but how would that stack up when you have the best of the best or some of the best in the sport there? It's like, you got no place to run. You who you are and what you're capable of will be revealed in that moment. So I was excited for that opportunity because it just meant that I was going to learn no matter what happened. And I won the race, and yet I still learned so much about how I can improve for the next races coming up. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people tuning in probably know that course it started, I think Harvey had a quote, like it went from the easiest race of his life to the hardest race of his life. And a lot of that had to do with the mud and the rain and the storms that were rolling through.
It looked awful.
It was awful. Dude, it was brutal. It was, and to be totally honest, I was excited when the rain hit because I think that put me at an advantage more than anybody else because I'd spent all winter running in the snow, preparing for Arrowhead, getting just, prepared for uncertain conditions, uncertain footing. And I think the training that we do at Yoakum Strengths and the lifting that we do prepared my body in a way that was more beneficial for those conditions. And it worked out. So, I mean, now that I've, been a week removed from that, if not more, it is pretty wild to think how that race can transform a career in my life, because I've already seen that happen with a ton of opportunities that are coming in. And maybe there's a world where I don't have to work 3 different part-time jobs in order to help sustain myself for
just two.
But it is cool to see that, this race has that opportunity. And what, you and I have talked a lot about in the last couple of days is like, yes, that was a huge moment, but there was so much work that went into that over the last 7 years that created that opportunity. It looks like an
overnight success.
And it really wasn't, dude. And
no.
I look back on some of the pivotal moments that helped prepare me for that moment. I look at the year of Calendar Club, of just doing that work every single day, not having an excuse to, because I'm not feeling well, or I got a wedding, or the weather's bad, or whatever reason. There was no excuse. I just did the work required for that day. And I think that's the mindset you have to take to these races, is there's going to be so much uncertainty. Who could have, there was rain forecasted, but who could have predicted that the course would turn into a complete mud pit, that there would be puddles like Big Bertha all over the course, just that you're running through standing water for the whole race. And I saw some comments from people that were saying, shame on Nick for not, taking care of the course better during the race. Because they became a Bigs qualifier. Laz, the original creator of the Backyard Ultra, he has a rule that once the race starts, you're not allowed to do any grooming of the trail. It's considered aid and assistance for the runners. So they were not allowed to do any of that. And that's a big thing that I think people need to realize is part of that race, part of the backyard, part of that experience is once the race starts, you're on your own. Whatever happens out there is entirely on you. You get aid and assistance when you finish that loop and before you go out for the next one. And you just kind of have to take the punches as they come. And that's why I don't go in with like a structured race strategy of like, I need to hit this time every loop, or I need to hit this amount of calories per hour. I need to hit this amount of, grams of sodium or whatever per hour. It is just...
It seems like you might not have that prepared, but at a certain point, it seems like you fall into a nice rhythm with losing. I think that goes back to your experience together in these backyard ultras. I think it's been like 7 or 8, maybe 9 now that you've done, and
this was
most of which,
8.
if not all, have been with Lucy. So I think she is someone that we can't like understate in this process, and how like impactful she's been to kind of know you, know how you're feeling, know what to prepare you with. And then I think that kind of helps us settle things. I know when I see Natalie at aid stations, I'm like, okay, I can kind of reassess where I'm at, regain, and then I'm almost a whole new person after seeing her and like the light in her eyes. It's totally different.
Yeah, it is a blessing to have her there every race. And it's not like we have a scientific approach to it, but she knows what she's doing, and she knows me
and
so
you don't
well.
Even know.
And like she knows me very well, where she knows what I need in a given moment, and she's able to provide that. And so if there's a listener who's trying to figure out how to have someone crew them, I think the best choice is the one that you can have that's going to consistently be with you from race to race. It's not always the best or the most decorated coach or the most knowledgeable person always. Not that Lucy isn't those things, but she has been with me for 5 backyard ultras, and every race she gets to see and learn what works and what doesn't, and what I need in a situation and what I don't need. And that knowledge is irreplaceable. And every race we get to grow that closeness and relationship where you could not pay me enough money to replace her with like the best nutritionist, the best coach, the best, physical trainer out on, like, you couldn't do it.
Yeah. That might be one of your advantages over anyone else in the field at this point.
It truly is. It truly is.
Yeah. Going back to the course, I think a big part that you talked about was that they couldn't alter the course at all. And that kind of came into play with, like, right by the start line, that huge puddle. It seemed like there was almost a few injuries by some of the runners right when you're trying to, like, cut around the posts, because that was the only spot where there wasn't a puddle.
But it was just long enough for you to make a little jump, and your feet were slipping.
Yeah. I have a few questions then for you, kind of on, I guess, the same thing, not course, but just to get into it more, maybe more deep. Was there ever a point, I mean, you talk about this all the time, which I love that you do, but on doubt, where was, like, the worst part that your mind went, and, like, what was it? Like, at what point was, like, your mind, like, at the lowest? Was there a certain lap or a certain time that you had seen, like, your crew? And then where did it go in that moment?
Yeah. I always think that the hardest part of the backyard ultra is between that 16 or 17 hour to hour 22. Like,
really?
That to me is always the hardest part, because you haven't invested enough in the race. Like, when you get to day 3 and there's 5 people left, you've invested 3 days of work into this thing where you're like, it doesn't matter how I feel now. I'm looking around. There's not a ton of competitors out here anymore. I've lasted all of the obstacles. I've overcame all those trials, and I'm still standing here. And you've invested so much. It's so much harder to quit in those moments. Whereas at loop 16 or 17, you're starting to hit nighttime. You're starting to look around you, and there's still 120 competitors out there. And your brain just goes to, man, this is starting to get really uncomfortable and painful. And you're forecasting that out of, like, I feel this crappy now.
Yes.
I'm going to have to be here for 2 or 3 more days. I can't imagine doing that,
Yes.
And so there's, that to me is always the hardest point. And then, you overcome that, you get through that darkness, you get to the other side of that, and there's micro moments that happen like that. Because then you get down to 10 people and you're like, okay, we're on day 2.5, and you're looking around and you're like, oh, like this could probably take another 2 days. And it's just, in those moments, for me out there during this race, I was utilizing a few things. One was the playlist that my sister-in-law sent me with her singing. And I've told her this, I've told this to social media now, like, when I hear her sing, it brings me closer to God, because she is anointed with a gift. It's not just talent. This is what my friend Cody we were talking about this the other day. It's like, it's much more than talent. It is when you see someone who is anointed with a gift and they use it to shed light in an area that's dark. Like, there's a different feeling. It hits your soul in a different way. And so when I was hitting those dark moments, I'd play that playlist. There were a few times where I was crying out on the course, and it just changed my mood from this frustration or this anger or this pain to, I got to release that and recognize, even in this dark moment, there is light and I can keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
So I was utilizing that, and then deeper in the race, there'd be times where I'd lay down on the course, my head would go down on my forearm, and I would just think, about this quote that we had at St. Thomas that Coach Caruso would always talk about was
Your
opportunities. Yeah, opportunities lost are never regained, and I would think about that, and I would imagine myself 24 hours later, if I decided that this loop was going to be my last loop, I would forecast out and say, okay, tomorrow, Mark, I want you to put yourself there and think back to this moment and just ask yourself if you will have any regrets of not moving forward. Yeah, everybody close their eyes. If you would regret not continuing on. And the answer was just always yes. The answer was always, I have way more to give than the downfall or the darkness or the pain of this moment. And so because I knew I had that choice, there's some people out there like Mike Egan in the wheelchair. He didn't have that choice anymore. As much as he probably wanted to keep going, he didn't have that choice anymore.
Yes.
And there's a difference between that and me knowing I have a choice to make and I can still make that choice. And in order for me to live by the words that I talk about, live by the words that I preach, I have to keep going. Otherwise, I'm a fraud. Otherwise, and that's why I love these races. That's why I love the backyards and the arrowheads, because in those moments when it's most difficult to make the choice, can you make it? And I really, really try and hold myself to that standard of I want my actions to meet my words, and this is the opportunity, this is the moment where it matters most. So I have to make the choice, even if it's painful to do so.
Man, it's gonna be firing up, dude. I don't want to quit anything now. I feel like that quote from Caruso is awesome. Like I don't think I'd ever quit if I heard that. Like it makes sense though. I mean, when the opportunity's there, you never know when it's going to come back around.
Well, it will never come back around in that way. Ever. You might have, and it was always hard in football because let's say I make a great break on a ball as a defender, and the ball just slips through my hands, and I drop the interception. There might be an opportunity later in that game to make a play, but that opportunity that just happened, that could potentially change the outcome of the game, will never happen again. That opportunity is gone forever. And so there's part of it of like, you need to recognize that every moment that you're out there is a special moment, and you should walk into that with that understanding and appreciation and be fully present in that moment. But then also like recognizing that if you dwell too much on dropping that interception or missing that opportunity, if you don't snap yourself back to the present and refocus, then you might miss the next opportunity because you're so focused on the one that you missed out on.
Yeah.
And it was always hard in sports like, any sport like football or basketball or baseball or something where there's a limit to the game per se, and things happen so fast. Sometimes you don't know you're in that moment, or you're in that opportunity, or you're playing the last game of your career until it's over and you're sitting in a locker room and you're crying with your teammates and you're like, holy smokes, I can't believe it's over. Like, what just happened? And backyards are different because I have the time to lay down on the trail and put myself in that mindset of tomorrow and say, no, I don't want to feel this way tomorrow. I'm going to keep going. And everything slows down. So it's really cool to be able to have the time to think about that and reflect on that while still being in the moment, so that you can continue making the decisions that will put you in a position to not feel regret the next day.
Yeah, that's funny. On the Single Track podcast, the latest one with Max Jolliffe, he had talked about how every time he saw you, you were walking. He's like, how is this guy completely laughing? Yeah. He's only walking. What is your strategy there? Because I realized that, this is kind of a thing that you do now that I've been watching your Backyard Ultras. you always like are at the very back of the pack at the start of the lap and kind of just let it ease into it and take your time. And Harvey just made a post about how he ran the backyard ultra that you guys had just done too fast, and it showed like the comparison table of your splits and how strategic your race was. When you don't come into the race with a plan, how does that realize then? How does that happen? Like, what goes through your head when you step up to the first lap? What's going through there? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. So there's a few reasons I do it. One is when you have 150 people running a race and everybody is going out the gate together, they're all running, there's a lot of energy in conversation, there's a lot of energy in just the race day environment, and I don't like being caught up in that.
Can I hold you for a second? That's so interesting, and it's interesting because you are energy, and you are that guy that's firing up the football team, firing up people at Yoakum's, being the like psycho hype man. But when it comes to these events, I feel like you take a step back and contain that because you realize, and I don't want to put anything on you so you can explain it yourself, but it seems like you contain that energy so that you can use it for a longer period of time and not waste anything on like getting too hyped too early when your goals may be different from others, where they're like just trying to complete 24 hours, which is huge and something we've barely got to in the past. But you might have a different outlook where you're trying to contain everything that you can within yourself and not waste it or not, maybe, blow it too early.
Yeah. So there's a conservation of energy behind it because, look, I'm at the point in my career where I'm looking at 3 or 4 days, and so I don't want to. I don't want to.
Terrible.
I don't want to. I've always been this way, but like I don't want to waste unnecessary energy on having a chat with every different person on the trail for the first 24 hours and then feel like I'm drained because I spent the first day, releasing that social energy.
Yes.
So there's an aspect to that. I heard Max say this on the podcast too, of like, it's not something, he doesn't get a lot of energy from meeting people or talking with people out on the course. I don't either. Like, it's not something that I know Harvey does. Like, Harvey, I admired him for it. And I do admire him for it. But
at heart,
he's a teacher at heart, and he was out there every loop running with somebody. And I was just thinking to myself, how is he doing that? Like, I genuinely, I would just get tired of talking for that long with different people. And so there's an aspect to that where I'm just like, I want to stay in the back. And for football and lacrosse, there is short bursts of energy needed. Yeah. Especially
it's like adrenaline.
It's adrenaline. And so it's like, when I played football, I weighed 192. I was the smallest linebacker in the crew. Everybody else was 210 to 245.
Linebacker at 192 is crazy.
It's crazy. But, I would have to take on a pulling guard that is 50, 60, sometimes 70 pounds more than me. And so I needed that burst of energy, that hype to get myself up to meet that guy and cut tackle him in the gap so that I could fill that hole.
Yeah.
And so there's an aspect where like I needed that energy in those sports to get what was needed out of me.
Yeah.
But I also look back and see a lot of moments where that energy took me away from being present in the moment. Like it was a good and bad thing. And so I've recognized that, sometimes there's wasted energy. Sometimes using that hype can actually put you at a disadvantage. And I just feel more comfortable running those loops at the pace that is like a walk run, coming in at 52 to 55 minutes per loop, because I don't need 15 minutes of rest. I've been able to teach myself that I can sleep for 3 minutes, I can eat for 2 minutes, or if Lucy's made me something where it's a handheld, I can just eat it while I'm walking that first quarter mile out on the course. Yes. And I've just, when I think about it as like revving your engine, when you go 0 to 100, you got to let the engine cool down before you rev it back up. If you're just going at a consistent pace, you can drive that thing forever. And so that's how I think about my motor in terms of I just want to be consistent and calm and let that breakdown of my body and my mind happen over a gradual, long period of time instead of like these big high and lows where
with that though, kind of jumping ahead, we'll jump back, but jumping ahead to Big's backyard ultra that you had qualified before this race for this fall. This year, it's a team competition of Team USA versus the world. I mean, every other country that has a backyard team is competing at the same time. Team USA in particular is on the same course at Laz's course in, I think, Tennessee. Yep. And what does that look like there then if you have teammates that need like that kind of social energy to kind of move? Like a Harvey, are you going to tune out to kind of save your laps? And this is all hypothetical right now. Yeah. But I'm just thinking like in a team aspect, that might change because you might need the camaraderie as a team to continue pushing forward, but also you might need to communicate that for you to get to the point where it's most impactful for the team, that maybe you lay low in the first few days, and then at a certain point, like you guys will find each other and those next, that type of thing. But that's just an interesting concept because it's like the only ever circumstance that you're on a team of more than two, at the end of a backyard,
No, it's a great question and one that I've been thinking and reflecting on ever since this race, because that is an aspect to this next one is we're all working as a team to try and get the most amount of laps. The way I've narrowed it down in my mind is typically I just need to get through the first 24 to 30 hours to know like, okay, this is how my body feels now. And I can sort of forecast that out into like, it's going to be a slow decline of how I'm feeling, but nothing's like breaking down in my ankles or my hamstrings or I feel solid enough. And what people
it feels like you're like waking up in the morning for you. It's like,
it is, dude. It is. It is exactly that. And what I think what people saw of like on day 2 and day 3 when I had more energy than I did on that first day, and they're like, oh, he's going psycho. He's losing his mind. He's gonna drop, or he's playing mind games with the other competitors. That's not it. It's I actually do have the energy in that moment, and that's how I'm expressing it. And so the way I'm sort of seeing it for Biggs is probably hanging back and doing that strategy for the first 24 to 30 hours. And then when I get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, I'm good, and I'm starting to get that energy, that's when I can utilize it to bring people together, to encourage people in a greater way, because that's the time where it is most effective for me to do that. Like, it might be on Harvey and some of the other people who enjoy the process of hanging out and chatting with people throughout the whole race, where they're going to be carrying the team in that department for the first 24 and 30 hours. Mm-hmm. And then there's a time for me to be effective where I can be the most impactful to help the team, to really get things going and change people's spirits, because that's where I'm most effective.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Dude, you guys are going to have a great team.
Dude, it's going to be so fun. I'm so stoked.
Versus Belgium. Another question I had was one that I had to deal with mightily, and we kind of both did when we first did our own backyard ultra, was the sleep deprivation part. We were both fighting demons out there in the middle of the night and trying to do whatever we could to stay awake, whether it was caffeine, whether it was whatever means we needed. What kind of strategies were you using like later in the race, and were you dealing with any like sleep deprivation or any hallucinations out there?
Yeah, so because of the course conditions, it made it more difficult to get sleep. So,
Yeah.
you know, typically on loops that I'm going to sleep, which is most of them, honestly, I get in a rhythm of doing 52-minute loops, 5 minutes of sleep, 3 minutes to eat, and then walk to the start line. Because the mud was making it so difficult, it was like a challenge to get 54 or 55-minute loops. And so that you were working harder to then get no sleep. And so I would still lay down for 2 to 3 minutes. But the nighttime, when the nights would come, it wasn't, I didn't hallucinate as much as I've had in the past. It was more of like I was dreaming and falling asleep while I was running. And so there were times where I just was like, I had to lay down on the trail for a minute just to like clear my head, close my eyes, get back up and keep running for another mile until it would happen again. And then I'd have to lay down, clear my mind, get back up. And during those like really late midnight to 4 a.m., that's when I started drinking a lot of coffee, a lot of Busy Cold Brew. Shout out to them. But that cold brew, man, it gets straight to your veins. So I wasn't drinking any coffee or anything during the day, but during those night loops, that's when I was choosing to go over to the caffeine.
What blend were you using from them? I think I have light roast in my fridge right now.
Light roast is good. I think I was just taking swigs of the espresso blend.
Jeez, okay.
Which is also highly caffeinated.
Yeah, both very. Kind of get into like post-race stuff.
Yeah.
Or maybe kind of during too, but leading into post-race. Was there a certain point where you realized that this like might actually be like life-changing or altering for you? Like, was there a certain point you knew, like a certain lap that you knew?
I think there was when Harvey and Kim dropped and it was just Kendall and I at the end. That was a pretty significant shift. What did that feel like?
What was that like? Yeah, what was that shift like? What were you thinking? What was going through your head at first? Do you think they were like injured, lost? Like during that, because they dropped in the middle of the night, and there were a few loops where the loop before they dropped, I took notice to, because it was the last like 3/4 of a mile to the finish line. There was a long stretch where, even for the strategy I have, I was like, oh crap, I got to get back now just to give myself 4 minutes. And I look over and I'm watching Kim and Harvey kind of work together, and I just was like, man, they're not supposed to be here, because I'm not supposed to be here at this point in time in the loop. You didn't realize their timing was starting to...
Their timing was starting to... And I just took notice of that. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's weird. They shouldn't be here at this time. And at the same point on the next loop, they were there again, looking very similar to how they did on the last loop. And so it didn't come as a total shock. But it was one of those like, oh my gosh. It was a reminder that anything can happen on any day. So, I think going into it, I was definitely looking at Harvey as like, it's going to take a lot to get to the end with him, and then he's going to take me where we go, because I've never been to the places that he's been to. But it was a reminder of that, and to get back to your original question, I think what shifted, and just like the social media and the race itself, a big turning point. Andy Glaze had sent me a voice message, and he was like, dude, we need updates from you on the loops. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a 7-second video of you just showing us where you are on the course and what's going... Like, I need updates every loop. And I posted that video just talking about how we're, there's drones flying all over the place. We're running through puddles. And...
that's when I knew, Dowdle, that it was GG. Like, I mean, I had known at the start, but when I had seen that Dowdle, which I've seen before, I knew it was over. I knew if you see that Dowdle, or if you're able to yeah, be in the presence of that dowdle. When your screws are loose, you're at your very best.
Yeah.
And it's scary for everybody.
Yeah. So that felt like a big turning point because the screws had become loose. Like they had fallen off and I was loopy and feeling good. And like, I knew it wasn't just like a high moment. It was like, no, this is how I've been feeling for the last 12 hours. I'm ready to share it with people. And just to see, you know, as soon as I posted it, it just went ballistic. And I was like,
yes.
So that's when I started to see a shift and feeling the momentum really start to swing. Because I was looking over at Kendall and I could just tell, you know, he's a very stoic individual. So it's hard to, it was hard to see him hurting at any point during the race. But you could just start to see the wear and tear on his point, on his end. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. This is way too fun. I'm like, that was part of it. It was like, I'm having so much fun out here. I don't want this to end. Like, let's keep this going.
Yeah. You're just like a little piggy rolling around in the mud, just squealing around.
There were times where I thought about coming in and just, before stepping over that finish line, and just rolling around in the mud. I just didn't think Lucy would be too happy with that.
No, I could. I mean, and the thing is, though, I want people to know that is who you are. It's not performative. It's just
not at all.
That is what you do. That is who you are. You like to experience life in its fullest and just have fun. Like that's exactly who you are, and you've stayed grounded from 0 followers to now almost up to 100,000 people following your journey and knowing who you are, and you don't change. Is there anything that you're trying to like protect now or prioritize now that you have a whole new like level of quote unquote fame or like people watching and following along? Is there anything that you're trying to ensure stays the same in your life and that isn't impacted by this, I guess, new level of eyes on you?
And not intentionally. Well, okay, there's a few different directions I could go with this. Like, one is, one of the things I'm most grateful for is that the guys that know me, the people that know me like you know that what you saw out there, it wasn't performative. It was just me. And that's something I'm so proud of and grateful for is that in a moment like that, I was my most authentic. Like, I was just being myself. And that was something that just feels really good because in big moments, you think you have to be someone other than you are. And it wasn't like I was making the intentional choice of like, I need to be myself. It just happened.
And at that point, most people might not know this feeling, but at that point, because there's only so many people in the world that have gotten that far in this distance or format, you are going to be truly stripped down to who you are. Yes. There's not going to be ego. There's not going to be hubris. There's nothing.
You don't have
there.
The energy to be anything else.
Yes, exactly. You're going to be exactly who you are, and I think that's like one of the coolest aspects of these things.
Yes.
And I felt that, I mean, honestly, at our 22, 23, 24 of our backyard, going into 25, and how it was pretty powerful just to feel that and have no sense of anything. I didn't care what anyone else thought. It was just me at my like rawest, which was I think pretty cool. Maybe something that you like about
and it is, and maybe that right there is what I'm trying to continue. And I made a shift a few years ago. I think after the Calendar Club Challenge of like I had tried for so long to try and be something that brands might want to support or that people in the space that I respect would want to would like me more, and I spent so much time doing that, and it left me so on empty. Where that shift of like, you know, like I've been sticking my face in the snow for 3 years, you know, like that's the type of stuff that I love to do and share. Even if I'm not sharing it on social media, I'm sticking my face in the snow, you know, it's just like, that's who I am. And I think coming out of this race, you know, something that I thanked Andy for the encouragement, and I was just like, I admire his ability to be unafraid to pull out his phone and share what he has for that given day. It's not something that's always come naturally to me. And so just trying to exist more in how I was able to freely do that during the deep part of the race, and try and bring that into my day-to-day life on the outside, where life gets back to normal, those insecurities start to creep in, that doubt starts, you try and you get more reserved, you're more, you know, like, you can't be that feeling out there is like a drug, and I wouldn't say I'm chasing that feeling, but it is an insight of, I can tap into that by just understanding that the way that I get through pain out there, by recognizing that that is not the full truth, is the same way that I can step into my day-to-day and share the things that I want to share, in spite of the doubt and insecurity that creeps in for that stuff. Mm-hmm. The other thing, you know, Lucy had talked about this on the way home too, which this is what really grounds me, aside from my faith, is, you know, she had shared on the second day of driving back, you know, we were getting closer to home, and she was just like, just remember that you've grown your following. People now see you and know you for this victory in this race, and there will be things that you do in the future that people will praise you for. Just know that myself and your friends and the people closest to you, as much as we love that you've done these things, those aren't the reasons that we enjoy you and love you. We love you for who you are, and having her in my corner, having you and Kellen and Caius and these guys in my corner, that I know this race it's exciting, and I know people are excited for me, but like, you don't love me more because I've won this race.
Exactly.
And Lucy doesn't love me more because I've won this race. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I really tried to hit home on before I got into this race, that I think a lot of people were like, does this guy even want to be there? Does he even want to win? It's like, I want to do the best work I possibly can. I want to leave it all out there. But at the end of the day, I know that my value and identity isn't wrapped up in the outcome of this race. Mm-hmm. And I think that has given me a total sense of freedom, and it has grounded me to the things that matter, because otherwise I'll just keep looking at this follower count and be like, I'm not good enough until 100K. Yes. I'm not good enough till 150. I'm not good enough until I'm at Biggs and I win that race, you know? Mm-hmm. I've been in that. I've spent time in that mindset, and it is lonely, it is dark, it is devaluing, it's everything that I don't want to be. And so just trying to continue with the success to stay grounded in the things that I truly believe matter more than any of it.
Honestly, I'm learning that more and more as the days go by, and how important it is that you really just value the relationships that are closest to you, and how that impacts your day-to-day basis. Like my relationship with Natalie, my relationship with our friends at church, my relationship with some close coworkers, and the people I love the most. It doesn't really, it matters. I mean, of you guys listening to this, like, we do care about like our viewers and people that follow along and support this journey from far away too, because we know it's not possible to, you know, connect with everyone.
It's a different relationship, though.
But it's different, yes. It's like, your family relationship, your close friends, it's those people that you really want to have those close ties with, and you have bonding with that's just different, that you can't really replicate. So I've been battling with that as well, in terms of like where my value lies. I'm like, does it really matter if I'm showing up and doing well for these people that don't really care, but they support and they like posts and stuff?
Sure.
Or does it matter that I'm showing up for my family and doing well for them? And I think it's hard. It's hard for sure. Because,
it's hard.
You feel that pressure, and you know that, especially in your position now, you know that your finances and how your family is affected is almost a direct result now of the deals and the sponsorships and the support that comes from the people online that follow you and support you and interact with your posts. So I guess...
And from the successes, too. Like, if I didn't win this race, if I didn't get the desired outcome of, like, winning the race, and that's where it becomes difficult, because you can get confused in tricking yourself and saying, I need to win this race, or I want to win this race, because then, therefore, I can take care of my family. And you can, and that's where you can lie to yourself into believing that you need more and more and more. You need to have these achievements and outcomes, because then it will take. It's a very messy and muddy game, and if you don't have the right people in your corner, then you will get lost in the confusion of that.
Yeah. I guess on that kind of topic, what makes you say yes or no to sponsors now? At this point, like, people are going to be reaching out.
Yeah.
What are some factors that you're saying yes or no to?
Yeah,
I know that on your Instagram you've shown that you're working 3 different part-time jobs at the moment, and people are starting to think that you're Ken from Barbie with all these different outfits, and you're hustling around, and people are calling you the most interesting man in the world. What changes now?
There's been a lot of inbound opportunities from this race, which is I'm incredibly grateful for, and I'm just trying to slow down and recognize that if, like, there's a deal that I said no to today because I couldn't think of a reason other than it was they were going to pay me money, and like that was it was good pay, and I just like I can't be led with that. It's got to be something that's connected to something that I believe in or I want to see for a long period of time. Even if it's a short deal, that it would be something that I would stand on years down the line. And I'm not going to be perfect in that, because it's new, and how you learn is by making mistakes. And so I'm just trying to stay grounded in what matters and lean on the people that can give me advice on those types of things. And, serving the overall mission that I have. Like, we talked about relationships. My relationship with you and Lucy and Kellen, and even like the relationships between you 3 are going to be very different from each other.
Yeah.
But then there's relationship with listeners and followers and people that, like, that is a different relationship, and I believe that we're all capable of more for myself and for the people that are following along with me. And so, when we do the 24-hour backyard, or when we do the run and plunge, like, what I get out of that isn't the same, like, it's not the same that I get out of the personal relationships I have. It's totally different, but it's totally special, because when I get to see people show up to run and plunge and they've never done something like it before, and they're terrified and they overcome that fear, and I see the joy that comes on the other side of that, and then I see them come back the next run and plunge and they've brought 2 friends with them, and now they, like, that is I'm getting chills thinking and talking about it, because it is like, that's the impact and relationship I want to have with people, where it's, I do something, I help create something, you participate in it, and then you make it your own by bringing other people to be a part of it, because you've been transformed in that. And so when I think about brands and deals and stuff, I try and keep that at front of mind, is, does this serve the overall mission? Will this brand or this product or this service help to support me in making that possible? Mm-hmm. And it's hard, because there's decisions have to be made. We need to know now. We need to know this. They need to know. And if it feels like I'm rushed in that decision, I will opt out and say, hey, I'll go umpire games. Like I will work my event setup job. I'll continue washing windows just to know that I don't have to take something because now I'm able to. Now I'm allowed to. Now that opportunity is there.
And you've, I mean, you have known it all along, but you've proven now, and this might resonate with folks that are in similar positions, that with a schedule like yours and with all the sacrifices you have to make and the jobs that you have, you're able to get it done.
Yeah.
You can get it done in that position with all that pressure from many different places and many different schedules that you're on. And
just wait until you have a kid, though.
Yeah. You're not someone that's limited by your circumstances. You do what you can with those circumstances, and you have the cards. It's not like you have no cards. You have cards to play, so you're able to play them, and you know how to use whatever you have, which I think is one of your strongest traits, is that it doesn't matter what circumstance you're in. It doesn't matter how much time you have. You'll make use of it, even if some is wasted. You know how much time. It's like in the backyard ultra. It's like you have an hour of time. Everyone has it. You choose to use it a certain way, and that's your strategy, and that works for you, even if it does mean that you're procrastinating some laps or some areas of your life. You do come around and use the rest of it, and I think that's very powerful for folks, especially in positions that they might think that it's only possible if you're a professional athlete, where everything's paid for and all you have to do is focus on running or the task at hand. But you have a schedule and probably close to what others have in their life too, that are trying to provide for their families and trying to make work, where you're working hours that are different, maybe not even a traditional 9 to 5, but many different jobs, and somehow you're able to balance your performance in there as well, when that might not be like your top priority, and it's still ringing true because you have something that you believe in strongly, and you put your all into it, and you're dialed, as you said on your latest Instagram
laser
video.
focus. Well, what I was trying to pull up, maybe you can pull up on your end because I'm getting sent a code to get logged in, but my Strava. Yeah. If you look at my Strava for the month of March, it's funny. A guy came into my tent. He works with Amanda, my agent. His name's Bryson. Love him, but he walked in before the race. He's like, yeah, I also noticed that your Strava, was there a strategy behind? It looked like you were running really low miles in the month of March leading up. And I did Arrowhead in January. February I did Calendar Club, and then March was
maybe 27 miles, 46 miles, 33 miles, 44 miles, and the week before 27 miles.
Yeah, so those are all weekly totals.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's weekly totals.
He's like, dude, that you didn't was there a strategy of deloading that long before the race? And I just looked at him, and honestly, this is what I was like. No, I'd spent February putting in the training, and then March I had to put a lot more work on my schedule because I needed to make up for all of the time that I was spending training or doing Arrowhead, or knowing that I was going to spend a week out in Texas spending a bunch of money on this race. I needed to stack work during that week and those weeks leading up. And so it's just you got to find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And there is a way to make it work, and it might not be working the 9 to 5 in a yearly salary role. It might be doing a bunch of part-time stuff where you can stack that at a time where your training isn't as important. So I just find that funny. It's like, yeah, no, that my Strava, there's not a strategy there. It's the strategy is how do I survive life right now?
Yeah. And with that, dude, I have a shift from 9:45 a.m. today to 8 p.m. So
let's get it.
A little over 10 hours. So to wind down, last question.
Sure.
Our podcast is called Ultra Ascent, and that it's a play on us wanting to do ultras and then the ascent that it takes. Now that you have hit a peak, where do you go from there, and who do you have to become now? Because you kind of talk about that in your races, like you want to learn more about yourself and who you are. Maybe talk about maybe briefly who you were becoming before the race, and then who you have to become now after, or if there is any change.
Sure. My first thought goes to not trying to become someone, but try and lean into the person that I already am. I think that one of the sad things, it's a very joyful moment because that race, BPN, was a breakthrough race for me. It was one that I've been working for 7 years. And so there's a sadness in knowing that the grind and the hustle to make this moment, this damned break, it finally happened, and now that chapter of my life is over. But in the process, I've learned that I don't need to become someone in order to live a fulfilling life and to have all the things that I want in my life and that I need in my life. And so on the other side of that breakthrough, it is recognizing that all the right pieces started landing into place when I shifted my mindset from trying to need to be someone that I wasn't, and more to looking at who God has created me to be and stepping fully into that. Yeah. And so that's what I want to continue down the path of.
Yeah,
of just
and that's what people have been
in
loving, dude, honestly. Like, people love to see that, and it's a breath of fresh air, honestly, for a lot of people. And I think it's very inspiring and motivating, even for myself to see it in you and who I've known for years now, to, like, see that. It just, like, it's a good feeling in my heart. And it doesn't matter what I feel, it doesn't matter what anyone feels, but I just want to tell you right now from, like, man to man that it's, like, it's really awesome and inspiring, like, in this moment, that you are not changing at all, or like, you're raw and your videos are cool and they tell a story about your life and the things that you're juggling alongside being a believer and a good husband and a good friend. So yeah, just full circle moment, because I mean, with our backyard ultra that we had hosted, we went 24 hours, and then we went the 25th hour. I've got the headband here for Go One More, because of Go One More and the brand and Nick Bear and, like, maybe his influence that he had on us. And there was no Go One More backyard ultra at that point, but we were doing one that kind of had that theme. And now full circle, just seeing you competing at the Go One More backyard ultra and going one more until it was just you. It was just really cool to witness, and it was awesome just to tune in every hour. I know my mom was up through the night watching, and Natalie's dad and parents were watching through the night, and just tuning in, and just, we love you, dude, and we're so happy for this. But kind of back to what Lucy said, it's like, yeah, this is not why we love you, and this is, like, no more success that you have in the future is why we love you. We love you for who you are in those videos at mile 69 of you being who you are. I think that's just incredible, and we're so proud of you. And it's the Ultra Ascent.
It's the Ultra Ascent, dude.
On the way.
I appreciate
On the way up, and always will be, even if it takes some downhills in the middle. So
I love you, brother.
Love you.
Have a good shift.
Yeah, have a good day doing whatever you're gonna do, whether it's speeches, window washing, set up and tear down. I don't know if you're still with Busy, but that would be a funny one just to, like, have as, like, a almost like a Stanley pop back in, and, like, I know you still have the van, or a van, so that'd be a funny another one just to lean into. People are like, how is he continuing to do it?
What is?
Yeah.
I should just do every job, like every day.
You're just working on a
job.
different 24 hours than we have. All right. Anyway, yeah.
All right, dude.
Yeah.
Peace.
Have a good one. Peace.